What we're looking at here in this explainer isn't just your standard football tournament. The 2026 FIFA World Cup represents, without a doubt, the most colossal logistical, structural, and engineering challenge in the entire history of global sports. I mean, we are talking about a massive, high-stakes transformation of existing urban infrastructure. It's about balancing incredibly strict international regulations against extreme summer climates, all while moving millions of people across a continent. It is literally a real-world race against the clock to engineer the impossible. So let's dive right into this.
The sheer scale of this thing, well, it begins with this number right here, 3. Because for the very first time ever, the World Cup is going to be hosted across 3 sovereign nations simultaneously: Canada, Mexico, and the United States. We're looking at a completely unprecedented geographical footprint, one that stretches from the damp Pacific Northwest all the way down to the high-altitude heart of Mexico City and right across to the Atlantic coast. And within those 3 nations, the tournament is going to absolutely dominate 16 distinct host cities. Think about that for a second. 16 massive, complex metropolitan areas, from Vancouver to Miami, Monterey to New York. Every single one of them has to be perfectly, structurally, and logistically synchronized to meet identical global standards. But the real turning point, the thing that changes the entire DNA of the event, is the human scale. We're jumping massively from 32 competing national teams to 48. This expansion is bringing 4 debutante nations to the global stage, which is amazing for the sport, but it profoundly shifts the tournament's footprint. We're suddenly needing way more training camps, significantly wider security perimeters, and more transit capacity than anyone has ever seen before. Which brings us to a final, honestly staggering metric: 104 matches, and they are all packed into a window of just 39 days. To put that into perspective, that volume of play is stretching the absolute limits of modern sports infrastructure. The sheer, unrelenting wear and tear on the pitches, on the host cities, and of course on the athletes themselves is going to be intense. Section 1. Transforming the iconic stadiums, adapting multi-purpose coliseums for global football. So how exactly do you pull off hosting 104 matches? Unlike past World Cups that leaned heavily on building brand new, purpose-built soccer shrines, North America is utilizing pre-existing NFL, CFL, and MLS stadiums. And trying to adapt these massive multi-purpose arenas brilliantly illustrates the vast architectural challenges involved. On one hand, you've got the historic Estadio Azteca down in Mexico, undergoing a $110 million overhaul. They're completely replacing over 80,000 seats and retrofitting its mid-century concrete bones. But then, on the other hand, you have the hyper-modern SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Get this, to fit a regulation soccer pitch inside SoFi, engineers literally have to elevate the entire playing surface by 30 inches and rip out lowerable seating just to meet FIFA's non-negotiable width and sightline mandates. However, altering megastructures of this magnitude comes with some intense real-world friction. Take Estadio Azteca, for example. International labor federations have actually raised flags over this massive renovation project. We're seeing neutral reports documenting serious concerns regarding operational transparency, structural safety, and even potential ground subsidence as these crews are just racing against time to finish the historic venue. It really highlights the immense, almost crushing pressure these host cities are operating under. Section 2. The Natural Grass Engineering Miracle. Growing 88 miles of sod. Now, this brings us to arguably the most pervasive technical hurdle of the entire tournament: the grass. FIFA has an absolute, uncompromising mandate that every single match must be played on living, natural grass. And that is a massive problem when half of your venues, places like Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium and Seattle's Lumen Field, are currently fitted with synthetic artificial turf. So to solve this, university scientists, specifically from Michigan State and Tennessee, had to develop a revolutionary, soilless agronomic methodology. They are essentially building temporary, survivable pitches right on top of the fake stuff. Step 1. They lay down plastic sheeting and a specialized sand base. Step 2. They roll out this hybrid turf, making sure the entire root network stays completely intact. And Step 3. They deploy massive rigs of LED grow lights to somehow keep the grass alive indoors. It's an absolute engineering miracle. But here's the catch. You can't just use the exact same grass everywhere. Turf scientists actually have to deploy highly specific agronomics tailored for totally different climates. So warm weather venues like Miami are using a really resilient Bermuda grass. Meanwhile, cool or fully enclosed indoor venues like up in Vancouver are utilizing a highly specific blend of Kentucky bluegrass and perennial ryegrass. The ultimate goal here? Ensuring that the ball bounces and rolls mathematically identically, whether you're in a humid coastal city or a controlled indoor dome. I really love how the organizers down at Houston's Domed NRG Stadium put it. They said, "This is essentially one big science experiment." And they're right. The extreme measures being taken to maintain living grass without natural sunlight are just unbelievable. Up in Vancouver, BC Place is actually utilizing repurposed regional snowmaking machines, using them as high-powered sprinklers just to keep the pitch properly hydrated in a highly controlled, enclosed environment. Section 3. Battling the climate threat, summer heat, and player safety.
Because out in the open air, there is a much darker threat looming over this tournament: the climate. Hosting a midsummer tournament across North America poses intense, peer-reviewed climatological risks, specifically when it comes to extreme summer heat and the direct threat to player safety. The crucial metric to understand here is the physical threshold of the human body, which is measured by something called the wet bulb globe temperature, that accounts for heat, humidity, wind, and solar radiation all at once. And you've got to notice the stark discrepancy we're showing here. The Global Players Union, FIFPro, strictly recommends delaying a match when the wet bulb hits 28 degrees Celsius, officially deeming it unsafe. Yet FIFA's official regulations don't even consider match postponement until things reach a highly dangerous 32 degrees.
And the reality is, human-induced climate change has made these dangerous conditions substantially more likely. When researchers look at data modeled around the last time the U.S. hosted the World Cup back in 1994, only 3 matches would have hit that unsafe 28-degree threshold. Fast forward to 2026, researchers project 5 matches will cross that hazardous line. So essentially, the beautiful game is getting objectively hotter and way more dangerous.
Section 4. Moving millions across borders, the logistical transit nightmare.
Beyond the stadiums and the climate, we really need to talk about the staggering logistical nightmare of moving the crowds. With a 48-team tournament, these host cities must execute a massive public transit mobilization to move millions of fans safely through unprecedented, highly militarized security perimeters and sprawling urban centers. To prevent total citywide gridlock, we're seeing all sorts of diverse municipal strategies rapidly rolling out. Down in Dallas, they're relying on brute force bus brigades and completely closing public roads. Up in Boston, they accelerated an $80 specialized commuter rail platform. Seattle and LA, they're leaning on billion-dollar subway and light rail extensions, while Kansas City is heavily utilizing its expanded free streetcar network.
Now, if you were sitting there thinking about just driving yourself to a game, think again. Premium parking at stadiums like LA's SoFi and New York's MetLife is going to run you up to $300 per match. And look, this isn't just about squeezing out revenue, it's deliberately priced to force fans onto public transit. Why? Because the massive surface parking lots that are normally used for cars are being actively seized by FIFA to build sprawling, exclusive VIP hospitality compounds. And alongside all these physical, logistical hurdles, this tournament is navigating a very complex global landscape. As neutral observers point out, strict visa policies, heavily enforced international travel restrictions, and ongoing geopolitical tensions are going to deeply test FIFA's core marketing message of global unity. It really shines a light on the very real friction between a borderless sporting event and the strict, heavily guarded borders of the host nations. Which ultimately leaves us with a pretty monumental question to ponder. We're totally transforming iconic stadiums, we're literally growing grass in laboratories, and we are rerouting entire city transit grids, all for just 39 days of football. As we aggressively engineer these new realities for the beautiful game, at what point does the sheer scale of the spectacle completely outgrow the cities that host it? What is the actual long-term environmental and structural impact of pulling off the most massive sporting event in human history? Thank you so much for exploring the data with us today, and we'll see you in the next explainer.